Hey guys, Effie here. I'm back with another watercolor video using our Amazing Gardenia Stamp Set. Now, I'll be doing some white heat embossing on watercolor paper. So I'm just going to prep my watercolor panel, which is an A2 size panel with some anti-static powder. And then I inked up my stamp with some clear embossing ink. And then I stamped it right onto my panel using my regular size MISTI. After I poured on some white embossing powder, I hit the whole panel with the heat tool, melting all of that powder. Now I'm just going to stamp or emboss some additional leaves around the edges of my panel, and I'm just going to white heat emboss those leaves as well. So once I'm finished, I'm going to start watercoloring this beautiful gardenia using Ken Oliver color burst. Now I have my color burst powders in a little palette. I'm going to leave a link in the description box where I've set up this palette. So now I'm just going to do some wet and wet watercoloring. Before I apply my Indigo color burst, I wet my bloom first with some clean water using a medium or large tip water brush, and then I used a fine tip brush which I dipped into my Indigo color burst well, and I added pigment to the inner corners or portions of my petals. And then I took my medium or large tip brush and I blended that color out a little bit towards the outer edges of the petals. And then after I had a nice base color in my flower, I just kind of went back and added deeper concentrations of pigment to the inner portions of my petals. And this way I'm going to get some really great depth in my flower. I go back and forth from wetting the petals to adding the pigment to blending that pigment out. And as I add layers of colors, I'm just going to continue repeating this process until I'm satisfied with the amount of shading and depth I have on my panel. For my gardenia today, I am just going to use the one Indigo color burst pigment for the petals. I'm not going to add another hue to it, but I am going to use black color burst to color in my leaf. This Amazing Gardenia image is a really great image to practice your watercoloring skills because each individual petal essentially provides kind of a small mini canvas for you to practice your blending on. So this is why it's good to just stamp it and start coloring. Whether you're using watercolor or zig markers or color pencils or any other medium, it's just good to just stamp it and just get to work and just start coloring and practicing. That's all there is to it. Usually when I paint my leaves, I like to blend the colors out so that we have a nice gradient in each leaf. But I went in a different direction today. I didn't blend the color out as I added the pigment. So in each leaf you have some of the hard edges of that black color burst, and I'm really loving the results. So next I'm just going to die cut my sentiment using our Love and Hugs die collection, and this die collection is really great because you have a combination of scripty and bold font dies. And I'm going to cut these dies out onto some cardstock that I created with some of our double-sided adhesive sheets. So once I die cut these actual dies, they're going to have that sticky back on them already, so we won't have to worry about using adhesive glue or anything with them because they're already going to have that sticky back. Once I ran the dies through my die cutting machine, I just carefully peeled up those dies and released the die cuts from each die using a needle. Then I started arranging the die cuts, and once I was satisfied with the placement, I took the protective paper backing off the back and then stuck the die cuts onto my watercolored panel. And for today, we're just sticking our sentiments directly onto the panel, basically to create a one-layered card. Before I finish my sentiment, I'm going to adhere my watercolor panel onto a side-folding A2 card base using some more of our double-sided adhesive. Then I took this Sending Big stamp, which is from our Brushed Hugs stamp set. I'm only going to white emboss the sending portion of this stamp. After I've embossed it onto black cardstock, I just trimmed it out into a sentiment strip and then popped it up right over my Hugs die cut. Then lastly, I added some of our glossy black sequins to finish off my card. And my card is now complete. I hope you guys enjoyed today's project and video. This was a quick and easy card for me to make today because it's just one layers, not a ton of stamping, just a little bit of watercoloring to get my creative juices flowing. So thank you so much for stopping by. If you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I update it on a weekly basis.